Hey everyone, and welcome to the Millennial Motivation Podcast with me, James Hackney. Let's get inspired and let's get motivated. Yes, that's right guys, it's the Millennial Motivation Podcast. Welcome millennials, it's James Hackney here. Thank you for tuning in. And guys, if you haven't already, if you could pop over to iTunes and hit subscribe and leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing. Just so it allows more millennials to find the show who are looking for that motivation and that inspiration. So today I'm going to be talking about your situation now doesn't have to determine your future. And I get it. It can be so hard to see a way out of your current situation in life, no matter where you are or how big or small your problem may seem. It can be so difficult to see a way out. And you're not the only one who suffers from this. Now, I was reading a book, or an amazing book, which I kind of see as my Bible. It's The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And it defines itself as the true secret of success, how to earn more, lead fearlessly, and live a happier life. Now, I'll leave a little link in the description below the show notes. Now, out of all the books that I have read, this one has really resonated with me the most. And there's a quote from this book which stands out, and it's the price tag the world puts on you is just about as identical to the one we put on ourselves. I'll read that again. So the price tag the world puts on you is just about as identical to the one we put on ourselves. Now have a little think about that for a second. And if we flip that quotation around, it really says that how you see yourself is just about identical to how the world will see you. And I always think as millennials, we have a lack of faith in ourselves and we allow that faith to dominate us, kind of using our mind to work against us. And I get it that the pressures online of what we feel we have to live up to each day, what we see across social media, in magazines, in internet articles, on the TV, I think it has a complete opposite effect to dragging us down as we feel so distant to the fake lies that we see online around lifestyles and body images that are all fake, but we all are led to believe them. So how do you currently see yourself? And I bet it's a lot harsher than reality. We are also so overcritical of ourselves, and we like to compare ourselves to others, which I have touched on in a previous podcast. So in the book, David talks about when he was speaking to a friend at a conference and how his friend had been able to change his mindset to not focus at where he was at the moment, but to focus at where he was going to be in a few years time. So he says that if he would have looked upon himself strictly as he was at that current time, so an old car, low income, cheap apartment, a hamburger diet, he wouldn't help but feel discouraged towards that. And he'd see a nobody, and he'd be a nobody for the rest of his life. But his friend had made up the mind to look upon himself as a person he was going to be in a few short years' time. So he didn't see himself as someone who was on low income. He saw himself as an executive, and he didn't see a shitty apartment. He saw a fine new home, suburban home. And when he was looking at himself that way, he felt bigger. And he thought bigger as well. Now, if you kind of compare this to my situation and how I changed my mindset to thinking not focusing at where I am currently, but to where I want to be a few short years down the line, I don't see myself living at home with my mum. I see a fine house, a nice house in a decent area of town. I don't see the job that I'm in currently at the moment in time, which I dislike. I see myself helping millennials all over the world to overcome the general obstacles that we face each day, being self-employed. And I don't see a single guy who is closing on 30. I see a guy with a wife and children in a happy family. And do you see how easy it can be to get your mind sucked into thinking this way? But do you think you could change your mindset as well? Now, there's one lady who really stands out for me who could have focused on where she was but didn't, is Oprah Winfrey. Now, she was molested during her childhood, and at 14 she fell pregnant with a child being born premature, then unfortunately dying. She was then sent away to live with a man she now calls a father. Now, this woman is the richest African American of the 20th century. She is ranked the most influential women in the world, and she was North America's first black multi-billionaire. But where do you think Oprah would have been if she would have concentrated on where she was and saw herself for what had happened to her? You've got to make up your mind to look at yourself as a person you are going to be in a few years. And how do you see yourself? If you are struggling, think, what do you want to see yourself as? And maybe you have recently broke from your partner and you have a house and children. And if you look at your current situation and believe that's how your life is going to be forever, then that doesn't really leave much hope and much faith in yourself. But man, I get it. It's difficult because I've seen people in this situation. I've seen my mum and experienced her pain. You only see the debt of the house, raising children as a single parent, scraping by for money, a different lifestyle that you're used to, and divorce. But do you know anyone who has been through this and is purely focusing on where they are now? And as I've said, it's near enough the same situation as when my dad left. My mum raised me and she focused and she saw herself providing food, water and a roof over my head. And that was her focus, and that's what she achieved because she believed that she could, and she sacrificed to make things work. And I have so much admiration for her for doing that. And I think what we have to do is to change the way we look at our current situation. And I get that everyone's situation is different, but you could look to what you could be with a positive spin, kind of breaking past where you are now and not accepting it's your forever. So let's say where you are now is you see yourself as skinny and with no muscle, and you want to get stronger and you want to put more muscle on. Revert your thinking to thinking that you're always going to be skinny, and vision yourself in the mirror at the gym with muscles, a six-pack. Vision yourself lifting bigger weights. You may want to lose weight as well, but you look at yourself as obese every single day, and that's all you think. But if you vision yourself losing weight each week, you vision yourself seeing the scales go down, you see yourself going down a dress size or a shirt size. It's all about you adding value to yourself and practicing that. By kind of visualizing yourself not as you are, but what as you can be, the specific ways for attaining your potential value will suggest themselves. Just try it and see. And I believe this works because it actually worked for me. When I was raising the £3,500 for cancer research, I had self-doubt and lacked self-belief that I could achieve my goal. But every day I would visualize myself achieving the £3,500. Every night before I went to bed, I could see myself raising that money and going past the £3,500 goal that I had set on just giving. And then new ideas starting to come towards me and come into my brain to how I could do this. Now, take this into everyday tasks. So let's say you want to go for a run tomorrow morning. This is something that I do. If I'm planning to run in the morning, I know that getting up at 6 a.m, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to have distractions and external forces wanting to keep me into bed. Well, vision yourself running. Vision yourself getting up in the morning, opening your eyes, putting on your running gear. If you want to read more and read, let's say, 20 minutes per day, vision yourself actually picking up the book and reading. And if you want to eat healthy, visualize yourself eating healthier food. Visualize yourself preparing healthier food and the smells and the texture and the tastes. It's all about making that simple switch of feeding your subconscious and your mind with positive thoughts and the vision of where you want to be. And that will then let your subconscious believe that you can do this and give you that self-belief and crush all the self-doubts. So could you accept your current situation, but don't accept that that's going to be your future? As a millennial, do you think you could do that? And could you accept that your current situation is only temporary and that only you can change that? You will then change your routines to work towards where you believe you will be, because as I've mentioned, your subconscious will believe that. Because every day you are feeding it some great information, telling your mind where you will be. So that will be the only thing that you will visualize. So I want you to ask kind of, how do you see yourself currently? And how do you see your future? I think it's a simple principle, and it isn't what you have that's important, rather it's how much you are planning to get that counts. And thank you once again to David Schwartz for kind of providing this in his book, The Magic of Thinking Big. And I would highly recommend you to read this, as there's some other amazing information that can only help you out and live a happier life. And I would love to know how you get on. I would love to know your thoughts, and I would love to hear how you see yourself currently in your situation, because everyone's situation is different. So drop me a direct message at Millennial Motivation Podcast on Instagram, or drop me an email at millennialmotivationpodcast@hotmail.com. I would love to hear your story and your current situation. And guys, remember, your habits and your routines all define your dreams. So, see you in the next episode, and have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you for listening to the Millennial Motivation Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you could head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show, as well as leave us a rating, that would be amazing. And if you have any questions, head over to Instagram at Millennial Motivation Podcast and drop me a DM.